Recording in progress.
The house on the west side, right across from there. Yeah, it's all guys. It's girls like that. Oh, I. And talk very well together.
It was picking up the conversation.
No.
Yeah, it must have.
Good evening. Welcome to this September 25, 2025 special meeting of the Mansfield Board of Education. My name's Kathy Ward. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. Jill, would you call the roll, please?
Susanna Everett. Martha Kelly.
Here.
Edith Allison.
Here.
Gregory Cecil.
Here.
John Frediello.
Here.
Sabrina Hosmer.
Here.
Catherine Paulus is joining us online.
Here.
Thank you. And Jeanette.
Here.
Great. Thank you, Jill.
You're welcome.
Edith, would you mind reading our mission statement?
It is the mission of the Mansfield Public Schools in partnership with the Mansfield community to ensure that each and every child develops the knowledge, skills, and dispositions essential for civic engagement and personal excellence in learning, life, and work within our local and global community.
Great. Thank you, Edith.
That brings us to committee report, transportation. Greg?
Hi. The meeting included updates on beginning of the year transportation. Information shared included current bus route updates. Routes are operating efficiently both morning and afternoon. The last bus to leave MES occurs at around 3:50 p.m. All MES buses are clearing by 4:35 p.m. The latest clearing are those leaving MES latest. Run times for MES range from 25 to 35 minutes. MMS late buses are also in full operation and running on time. Zonar MyView, that's the parent app. Families continue to rely on the MyView bus app. Statistics include 249 new family accounts created, and 443 students now have at least one family account associated with the student as of September 22nd. Transportation fleet news. M&J continues to ensure that we have a young fleet. Of our 17 buses, all are 6 years in age and younger. We've received 6 new buses and 1 new van this year. In regards to contract extension, Mansfield Public Schools has entered into a 5-year contract extension with M&J Transportation. Negotiated extension offers the district savings and benefits over the life of the contract. We'll hear more about this later tonight.
Great. Thank you, Greg. Nice job. Thank you. That brings us to information, presentations, and actions. M&J bus contract. Take it away, Candace.
Thank you and good evening. Yes, first thing that I'd like to share with the board this evening is we had the opportunity to work with M&J Transportation and to negotiate a contract extension that I think benefits our community quite well. I'll start at the beginning, and they in June initially presented to us an initial proposal of a 5-year contract with proposed rate increases on an annual basis of 3.3%, 5.5%, 5.5%, 4.0, and 4.5. One thing that was we were interested in the extension of this 5-year contract proposal was the removal of overtime provision on regular transportation runs. As you know, that is something that we've paid quite a close attention to over the last few years. And so moving away from that was something that we certainly were interested in. They also proposed to us in this new proposal that we would have 2 cameras on each bus, one in the front and one in the back. That's advantageous to us. We know that there are limitations with just a singular camera on the bus. And also important to us was the assurance that they commit to maintaining a fleet that is 7 years of age and younger. And of course, beyond the $10 million in insurance coverage, they've committed to insuring $15 million. But the other piece that was interesting in this proposal was they also proposed to us in the final year of our current contract that they'd reduce our rate increase from 3.5 to 1.5%. And this reflects approximately $20,000 savings over the length of the contract for this year alone. So while we were interested in this initial proposal, we wanted to do our homework and get a sense of, in communities around the state, what were their percent increases looking like annually and over the life of their 5-year contracts. What you would expect is in the larger communities, these cost increases tend to be much higher, more students, more transportation needs. In the smaller communities, these cost increases tended to land between 22 and 23%. And so with that information, we then revisited M&J's initial proposal, and knowing that we were quite interested in starting out this year with only a 1.5% rate increase, we provided to them a counter proposal, not only overall reducing the annual rate increase over the life of the contract, we also were very interested in ensuring that on the front end that our dollar amount stayed low, knowing that over time that savings increases. And so in engaging in this contract extension, we're not only saving the $20,000 in this current last year of our 5-year contract, but we're also experiencing some pretty significant savings over the next 5 years. And so in our contract extension agreement, we negotiated the adjusted annual increase rates as well as the reduced rate this current year. And in addition, we went back to them and said, we'd like you to entertain and consider, if we prepaid for regular transportation up front, would you reduce the would you provide us a negotiated additional 1% savings annually? And so what that does for us is actually even more so reduces our annual cost for transportation. And so what this means to us in dollar amounts is that there's a $20,000 savings this year over the 5 years of our extended contract extension agreement, provided that we partake in the 1% prepay, we'll save $82,469 in actual money savings. But what's also interesting is when you're paying attention to how you negotiate these rates, if you compare the savings, the total savings between the original offer and the agreed upon contract extension, factoring in that 1% prepay, we save about $259,930 in home to school transportation. And that's so, you know, we think about that while that's not actual money, that's cost avoidance by being diligent and ensuring that we get what we need from our contract. And so we're quite pleased with that.
Any questions? Yes, John.
Yeah, Candace, is there any escalation if gas prices go up to, $6 an hour, $6 a gallon? Or
So there isn't any in our contract. We provide the fuel for these buses. And so fuel is something that we negotiate through a contract, through our bargaining unit. So we're not on the hook for any cost increase there. The other thing is M&J in our local yard is not a union yard. And so some of the unpredictable costs that are incurred by school districts around bus companies that have unionized yards, and there are some negotiated cost increases that occur that are then passed on to the consumer.
Any other questions? Candace, I would just like, I've said it before, I'd like to say it again. You have done an absolutely spectacular job with this transportation, developing the relationship with the yard and the drivers, and cost savings to boot. So thank you very much. Excellent job.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Dan needs to take care of something, I'm told.
Take a brief pause.
Okay.
You want me to wait a second here?
And those, pardon,
Want me to wait?
it's done, you could ask the members who are concerned.
For the folks that are joining us via Zoom, would you please exit the Zoom and then rejoin? We're just having some technical issues. Thank you very much. Oh, we don't need to do that? Okay, cancel that request. Thank you, guys. All right, Jill, we good?
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That brings us to report of progress, knowing students.
Thank you. As you recalled at the last meeting, we were pleased to share with you this year's district development plan. And as customary, we report out on our reports of progress 3 times a year. So we're really pleased to be able to share with you all today on Know Students. It's something that we're quite proud of and we look forward to. We'll start with first reasserting our mission and our belief that the work that we do is about each and every child and ensuring that they have what they need to be successful, not only in their life and their school experience today, but also life beyond school. And it's something that I think through our presentation tonight, you'll be able to see ring true. And we know that our work and that we do each and every day is grounded in our core beliefs, that they serve as the foundational principles that guide what we do. Our core beliefs define not only who we are and guide what we do, but they inspire how we lead. And we know that that's important to our work and who we are, and also the work that we do in supporting our families and our students. And lastly, all of what we do is anchored in our four key drivers: know students, support the whole child, and ensure deep learning, and system coherence, that very work that keeps and ties all of these components together. And we like to say that our key drivers turn priorities into progress. And so what you'll be able to see tonight through the presentation that we have ready for you is that we really have named some priorities that are making big progress across our community. And lastly, just to orient you to our district development plan, we like to think about, when we talk about know students, thinking about, first of all, what does it mean? And how, what will we do to improve, naming our actions, and also thinking about what data do we have and how will we measure progress utilizing that data. And lastly, how is this aligned to our core beliefs in our work? And if we look at this, we start first with thinking about our vision statement around what it means to know students, thinking about the way we gather and use evidence from a variety of formats to inform informal sources to build understanding of the learner. We then begin to name out what are those actions that we're committing to ensure that we are truly engaging in the work of knowing our students. And then we think about what are the ways that we measure this, whether it's looking at student attendance or demographics or enrollment. What are the ways that we're able to know and understand that we're making progress? And lastly, in our work each and every day, how do we ensure that our core beliefs are alive and well in that work? And when we think about our actions and indicators, I really think they're much like our theory of action related to our work. Those if-then statements. Actions are what drive our work. The indicators show the impact of it. For example, if we develop strategies to support knowing the whole student, then attendance and performance will improve. And so it's really that work that we do to be very intentional in the work. And tonight we thought we'd share several examples with you of what this looks like in the day-to-day in Mansfield Public Schools. So at this time, I'd like to invite up our team, MES team, Principal Kate McCoy, Assistant Principal Becky Granatini, Mansfield Middle School, Principal Larry Barlow, Assistant Principal Danielle Vliet, our Director of Student Support Services, Dr. Shamim Patwa, and Hope Mulholland, who is our technology integrationist for the district. And we invite them tonight to share with you some examples of how we illuminate and elevate our work that supports knowing our children. And tonight we'll kick this off and begin with Dr. Patwa.
Hello, good, it's working. Good evening. When we think about knowing students, we always have to think about how are we sharing the information? And from the lens of special ed and 504, there's a lot of information that needs to be shared with general education teachers, which also includes related arts teachers. So what I did was just share some samples of how information is disseminated. It's all about digestible information. There's a lot of information, but you know, when you're learning and connecting with a student, you need the salient points. And if you click on that All About Me, you'll see how Kelsey Kaplan shared. These are all de-identified, but whoa, that didn't work. Okay. It's really cute. But is it working now?
It's not working. Maybe Dan can
Update the
work on
browser.
it
Okay.
and-
So the other one, Marissa Ozark, the lower one, It would also include a picture of the student. And what I want to show you is that it's also about the things that they might need, but also some of the things that work for a student. A quick at a glance. And then on the right is something that Annie McLaughlin from MES tends to use, and that's a comprehensive view of what her students might need and what they're working on. So it's a quick way to start understanding a student. Of course, there's a deeper dive that takes place afterwards. And hopefully you'll be able to see what Kelsey created too. Okay.
Thank you, Shamim. And next, what I'd like to do is Kate McCoy and Becky Granatini are going to be sharing a little bit about their work at the elementary school and really empowering and raising up teacher leaders to do this work. What I am so appreciative of that it's robust, it's intentional, and it's educator-led.
Thank you. We're excited to be able to share with you the work of our PBIS leadership team. And so, as you know, at MES, we embrace PAWS as our PBIS acronym, or the Tigers, and it's practice kindness, act responsibly, work and play safely, and show respect. And while when we moved into MES, there were the frameworks for that, we still had work to do. We were a new community, and that would be a lot of work. Becky and I like to say when we moved in, we were still trying to figure out what arrival and dismissal might be like. For us to be able to lift all of the work of our PBIS, which is the core of who we are, we needed teachers. And teachers showed up. And what you see on this slide is our teacher leadership team. These teachers came forward and said, we want to do this work. We live this work. It's important to us. And so you see Heather Lasky, who is a kindergarten teacher, Annie McLaughlin, who we just talked about, who's a special ed teacher, Amanda Doyle, who is a reading consultant, and Jack Irvin, who's a second grade teacher. And the year he stepped up to be part of our leadership team, he was a first year teacher. And so each one of these comes with a different experience, a different lens, and they have come together to build our system. We could not be the school we are with the PBIS system we have in place without teacher leadership. They have made immense progress in it. They also stand out as leaders to their colleagues. And what you see in the lower center is that we were all invited last year to present at the New England Conference on PBIS and to show just the roadmap of the work we've done. And Mansfield grows educators and teacher leaders step up. And this is one amazing example. Becky's going to share with you just how that turnkeyed this year into our PD work.
So this year, our PBIS leadership team took leadership in running several different sessions for our PD day that we had September 19th. And it was really, we were seeking kind of what exactly do we need as a school community to continue to build this out, right? We have people that are very willing. We have some great practices in place. In fact, Kate and I were thrilled as we walked through the school those first days to see that those PBIS, the things that are in our matrix are our overall guiding principles. We were seeing students follow these through in classrooms. It wasn't like they had to receive a new full set of rules for the new classroom that they were coming into this year. They knew the rules, they knew the expectations, they knew exactly how to behave across the school community in all different parts of the building. So we were seeing that in action, which was amazing. But now it was time for us to start to take our next steps as we continue to grow our practices. So our PBIS leadership team came together and said, what is it exactly that we think we need based on what we're seeing, what we're hearing from colleagues, what teachers are asking for, and what we can see students need. And so we had 5 different sessions that were offered, and one of them was PBIS 101, which was for anyone who was new to our school community, anyone who felt like they needed a refresher. We kind of brought out some of those things we might have talked about in year 1 to make sure we were all on the same page with an understanding of our how we were moving forward with these practices. PBIS rewards, we use an online system to help us capture data and to be able to keep track of how things are going. So Jack led a session making sure that everyone had access and was feeling comfortable with that. And this was fascinating. So Amanda Doyle, our reading consultant, led an integrating PBIS into learning tasks session, which really started to think about it. For example, in using Benchmark, our new reading program, if we're talking about character traits, how is it that we can start to build in our PBIS foundations and matrix into that? If we're talking about expectations for behavior, how is it that we can start to talk about characters and stories using some of those same kind of characteristics? Additionally, we started to talk about Tier 2 PBIS. Last year, we worked with a consultant from CRAC who helped us to see that Tier 2 really is our next step with that. So we ran a session on that as well. And personal matrix creation. What does the PBIS matrix look like? We know what it looks like for our school-wide community, but what does it look like in individual classrooms, and what are the specifics that we can get into from there? So Annie McLaughlin has been doing that in her classroom. We've seen it in practice in lots of places throughout our school. She really brought the practice to people's hands and helped people to start to move forward with that work. And here's an example of Annie and one of the student-created personal matrices that was for a specific learning area.
Thank you. And you've heard about our data dashboard in the past. This is our homegrown location and dashboard by which we house pertinent academic and assessment information for students. But we've had some enhancements that we've added to this dashboard that we thought we'd give you an update. You've heard about it in the past. It's grown and evolved over the past 3 years or so. So we've invited Hope here to share how we use this tool to know our students.
Great. So yeah, we continue to build out the district data dashboard. And one of the really nice things about it is that we can take feedback from teachers. And because we design it and build it ourselves, we can take feedback and keep adding information that teachers really want to see in the dashboard and give access to data in one place so that they can know their students and it can help them inform instruction. So all of our major assessments are on there. And Candace, if you go to the next slide, one of our big additions this summer was the addition of lost links testing on our dashboard. So we have a whole new page that shares about the English proficiency assessment that's administered to all multilingual learners. And this tool provides teachers with a better understanding of the areas of strength and the needs of our ML learners. So on the page itself, it has the student score, but also what that score means for students. And it also gives specifics about what areas of strength they have, whether that's writing or speaking or reading, what areas that they still have growth to do. In addition, there's a quick access. You can kind of see those links over there, quick access for resources for teachers to help support ML learners in the classroom. And this aligns really nicely to our upcoming professional learning. We're going to have in October and November a speaker come and talk about supporting ML learners in the Tier 1 classroom. So I've been going to grade level meetings and sharing with teachers how to use lost links so that they're prepared to be able to use that after they get their new knowledge at the October and November professional development. And question?
Certainly, Martha.
What does LAS mean?
LAS? Oh, I do know this. Maybe you can help me, Shamim. I just was looking at
Language assessment.
language acquisition. I think it's language acquisition
Survey.
survey. I think so. I was just looking at this. Sorry, Martha. I can look it up, but it was language acquisition survey, I believe.
Yeah, we don't deal with this on a daily basis, so we have a hard time.
Yes.
So before I have Hope go on to the next element she'll talk about with the data dashboard, what you've just seen here are a few examples of the ways within our actions we've said that we would implement collaborative cultures and practices and professional learning that develops the capacity of our educators to use data and evidence to understand student performance. And what you've seen here and heard a little bit about is how we're using the information that we have and how we're leveraging instructional practices and the expertise of our educators to grow our collective practices and skills. And we know that one of our core beliefs is that we grow educators. And what better way than to grow educators by empowering their colleagues to lead that work. And so it's something we're very proud of. Hope's also going to share a little bit about how our data dashboard has evolved as well in being the hub by which where our students are able to place their portfolios. Student portfolios are the work that we are engaging students building in artifacts of their learning journey from kindergarten through 8th grade. And so Hope's going to talk a little bit about what that now looks like on the data dashboard.
Yeah, so part of the data dashboard that that's I think really exciting is that we have individual pages for students where you can look at an individual student and see a lot of information about that student. And one of those pieces of information is a link to their portfolio. And in the portfolio, students create their artifacts. What the portfolio is a collection of folders that align to subject areas, and students put artifacts in their portfolio throughout the year. And right now we've fully implemented it in grades 5 through 8, and we've started piloting in grades 3 and 4. So now students who are in grades 3 and up, they're adding artifacts to their folders, and then each year they're able to look back at their artifacts from the year previous and see how much they've grown. And by including it on the data dashboard, teachers are also able to easily access each student's portfolio and see their work. So imagine just the power of being able to have a new student in your class and see the things that they have been proud of and they've chosen as artifacts to add into their portfolio, see their writing, see what's important to the students. So this is just one student's example of an artifact that they chose, a project that they did, and then they reflect on their growth during that project or what challenged them or what they liked. Often the reflections include our 5 C's. So what parts of the portrait of the graduate that our students have really resonated with when working on that project. So this is just one example, but the students have been doing some really nice work, and we're going to continue to do that work with a focus this year on really giving meaningful feedback to students to help grow their reflection practices.
Thank you. Are there any questions? All right.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Catherine?
Is this the portfolio that we've talked about in the past where the student actually gets to keep it when they leave our school system?
Yeah, so students do get to keep the portfolios when they leave. They can download all the files, but then we also share with the student and their families a link to their portfolios that have their portfolios when they leave in 8th grade that they can access.
Has anyone thought about talking to E.O. Smith as something to continue it? Because I think kids would really love to know how they did from day one to when they leave lower education.
Catherine, we've certainly shared the work and what we are doing with our students, and we can continue to have those conversations. We know that some students do download their portfolio work and take it with them so that they can include it as they move up to the high school, but it's something that we can continue to share with them because we too agree, we see the value in that work. Okay, and then as we think, you're welcome. As we think about the ways that we know our students and support our students and engage in family engagement, another really important element to this work is thinking about how we embrace our new families in our community. And I'd like to allow Larry and Danielle to share. They've done some pretty significant work in collaboration with their school counselors and really setting up systems that embrace our new families.
Thank you, Candace. Yeah, I get the honor to share some work from our school counselors, Christina Lee and Eileen Melody, MMS school counselors, and they developed last year through their goals work and in collaboration with UConn, a new program that aims to support students new to MMS. The name of their program is called Bridging Cultures, Building Connections. The goal of the program simply is to ensure students feel welcomed and supported when they join and walk through our doors. We want kids to feel that they belong and that they're able to build connections with both students and adults.
Back.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Martha.
In that slide, Cassell framework with CA
Oh,
skill.
yes, CASEL, the CASEL framework stands for Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. It's an SEL framework. Yep, you're welcome.
So as a part of moving this program forward, here's some of the structures that the team worked on: our school counseling staff, our administrative assistants, and Principal Barlow and I. So we worked on an enhanced registration protocol. In doing that, we wanted to just make sure we had every step clearly outlined in order to make it an easy process for families, while also ensuring we had all the information that we needed to best support any new student. So there are specific roles that we laid out for each of those steps along the way. The next step following the registration is a formal entry meeting and family meeting. So the school counselor would meet with the family. And this is where we get the personalized touch, where they really get to know the student and the needs. And this allows us to think about who we really need at the table. Sometimes we invite additional staff in there. Say it was a student who's a multilingual learner, we might invite a staff member to already help introduce that connection for the family. And then as we move forward, our Sunshine Club, which is a group of students that supports our school counseling staff, they provide some building-wide tours for the students. So that happens over the summer. We have at least one day where we invite all of our new families in to come tour the school, see where their locker is going to be, see where their classes are going to be ahead of time. So they're not so overwhelmed on that first day. They have a little bit of a glimpse into what school looked like and a chance to ask kids what it looks like too, because we can talk to them as adults, but they get that comfort level with their peers. And then lastly, over the summer, the school counselors, Christina Lee and Eileen Melody, created a handbook shared with families and new students. And it outlines not only just the school day and the resources that our school provides, but it also makes connections to our community resources as well. Again, just really trying to make sure that all new students and their families feel a strong connection right off the bat.
Is the family handbook something you can share with the board?
Yeah, we can link that into that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then once students join MMS and they're here with us, school counselors will consult with staff. Similar to what Shamim had shared, when we share out information about students with an IEP or a 504, we also have that opportunity to share with staff information about our new students in order to ensure that we're providing the appropriate and needed supports that they have. So that's the next layer in that continuum of support. As we work with our students, our school counselors also engage in continued outreach and support to our students and families. That may look like a daily check-in with a student, whether it's in the morning or midday. And it also looks like specific pointed outreach to families. For example, a couple weeks ago, we launched our flyer for our after-school activities. Our school counselors provided outreach to those newer families prior to sharing that out with all of our families, just to let them know this is coming, what to do, answer questions, and help them get set up so that their students can sign up and be engaged. And we know that we want our new students, we want all our students, but in particular our new students, to make sure they have those opportunities to join us in our after-school activities program. And then, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask, 1 month in, how's this going?
Oh, this is great. This was a culmination of a lot of work, and it's still ongoing. So like bullet 3, Christine and Eileen, they're working on supporting new students through a WIN group, a specific WIN group, a What I Need group, for quarter 1. And so it's, our newcomers, new students to Mansfield Middle School are part of this group. And they're focusing on self and social awareness, relationship building, communication, self-management, decision-making, and more. Just helping students feel welcomed and ready to take on the challenges of Mansfield Middle School. And then lastly, our school counselors held a couple new to MMS family virtual orientations and question and answer sessions. So once a month into school, we've removed from that initial family meeting, having another touch point with our families, with our school counselors, in a multitude of sessions that are convenient for them. So just another way to help support the whole child, looking at this lens of our new students.
And what I love about this, it's, those multiple touch points to just help families feel connected and supported are so important. There's a lot to take in where you're a new student and you're a new family, and just making sure that we're accessible and available to them, that they know who to reach out to really makes a difference. And so we really applaud the middle school for that work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Yes, John.
Just a comment. At your level, Larry, in particular, when new kids come in, that's a traumatic experience for them.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. And I think what you're doing and what your staff is doing is really commendable.
Yeah, thank you.
And it's going to be great for new kids coming in.
Yeah.
And for the portfolio group and having that portfolio, I was thinking about young kids looking back and saying, did I write like that when I was in the first grade going up? That's so growth orienting for kids.
Yeah.
To say, I am making progress. So you guys are doing a terrific job, and I commend you for putting the extra effort into doing what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. And we all do that work. It's not just one entity. We're all taking a turn speaking, but the reality is all this work happens everywhere. That's the through line from the board through central office down to the building level into the classroom down to students and their families. And so thank you all. And just a note on the portfolios. I had a box that was thrown away in my attic. Now we don't have that worry as much, right? Like we offer those opportunities for kids to hold on and see their work as young adults, or maybe even at my age. So that's really cool when we think about the future of students having access to their work from from their young grades all the way up through middle school.
Yes, Susanna.
I just also wanted to add the comment around the transition support for new students. That's just really so wonderful. We know that that's a high risk sort of group of kids, just because it, like John said, it's difficult to move in, especially in middle school. So it's wonderful how many different ways you're making students and their families be welcome to the MMS community. And I know that you guys do that in MES as well too. So that's really exciting and heartening. It's nice to see how it isn't just hello, and it's like followed up with a lot of extra support across especially during this transition couple of months. So that's great.
And I think just another point, the team has also captured this in documentation, so that we can improve upon this over time. It doesn't get lost when we lose a staff member, right? We've captured this so that this is us, this is Mansfield. We're always going to do this and improve upon it.
Shamim, I apologize for the technical escalator glitch. Would we be able to see that at some time? Can that be sent to us? Because I'm really interested in seeing it.
Transition from 4th to 5th grade. It's a slide that introduces the student to their 5th grade team. And yeah, when you get a chance.
I would really enjoy watching that. Thank you.
We will make sure that that's shared with you for sure.
Great.
That's important.
I just want to say how much I know I appreciate as a board member, you folks making these presentations to us. It just gives us so much more information, understanding of what's going on in our schools that we hadn't had before. So we appreciate you taking the time and being so thoughtful about presenting this to us, because it really does make a difference. It's awesome. You guys are awesome. That's all.
I would agree. Another area that we like to remind you of is our efforts and endeavors towards family engagement. And I appreciate that really what Larry and Danielle began to talk about with helping our new students acclimate is really a strong component of family engagement. But we know with family engagement, our work is never done. We continually evaluate, reflect, and refine. We're continuing to focus on the ways that our communication strategy and plan and monitoring, what are the ways that we are conducting that outreach to our families that make them aware of not only program offerings, but services and support that we can provide. We know that our webpage is a hub of key information for our families. We continue to look and update that. We also look at how do we provide strategic and timely, a focus on timely supports and opportunities for family. And in communication, we often talk about what is the strategic communication and how many times do we need to share that out to ensure that it's gotten our families' attention. But we also think about the ways that we invite our families in. And so over the course of the year, we have many opportunities, particularly at the beginning of the year, for these getting to know you events, whether it's on the second day that teachers are back at MES, all families have an opportunity to come in and meet their teachers, or thinking about the ways that at the middle school in that transition year, teachers invite in families prior to the start of school so that there's a name and a face. I think that's important. Last year, the middle school also highlighted a family fun night that was incredibly well attended and incredibly popular, and has sort of become something that families are looking forward to again this year. And this year I'll highlight here, but I'll actually put the link at the end of the slide deck. The middle school has collaborated with the Youth Services Bureau in scheduling a timely showing of the documentary Screenagers on November 12th. They've extended that not only to our community, but our surrounding communities that we collaborate with. And we're hoping to have a number of families come and attend and not only view the documentary, but engage in dialogue about how we support our youth who are growing up in this age of technology. So something to be on the lookout for and to be thinking about, hopefully attending. And again, as ongoing family engagement and outreach, we engage in family advisory. It's a standing part of our PTO and MMSA agenda items. And additionally, we seek partnership with our families through task force and focus groups and ensure that we have family representation. And so we make sure that we provide active outreach to our families so that they're an active participant in that work. What we'd like to do now is to move from what I call almost the storytelling of what do we do in the day in and day out to support our students, to looking a little bit more at how we know our students and our families through data. We'll start with student enrollment. We're currently at 941, and while this is not the October 1st enrollment, this gives us a sense of the visual of enrollment on the horizon. Remember that pre-K this year, we are an all-day pre-K, so we are at 50 students at this time in pre-K, and that we have an enrollment of a total of 941, with our highest enrollment really being in 3rd and 4th grade presently. Demographics, we're a diverse community, and you see on this slide a representation of our community and our families. And we are also a community that has a diverse home language background. We have 30 different home languages spoken by our families. And you see within our community about 21 to 22% of our students are non-English speaking. Our MPS staff also represent a number of different languages spoken within our school community, and have been very helpful with us at times when we've needed some support. And so we're appreciative and proud of that. Next, we'll move into attendance, student average attendance rates. This is something that we track and compare across with the state over time. And so what you see here is our attendance, daily average attendance rates that we have been tracking since pre-pandemic in 2019. We still, we still are above the state average. But what we also look at, and what you've heard us talk about in the past, is chronic absenteeism. And this is something that I think we can all celebrate. We know that post-pandemic, we had to get kids back in school and get kids reconnected. And so this team of really impressive administrators and educators, we built systems, and kudos to Shamim and a lot of work that she did. And really, what is the system that we need to put in place to make sure that we're getting our kids back in school? The elementary school engaged in an initiative with all in, every kid, every day, and making sure that kids were in the building. And what you're seeing is a pretty impressively dramatic drop in chronic absenteeism from just 3 years ago. And that's a credit to some really strategic and intentional efforts on the part of our leadership team in making sure they were conducting active outreach, that we're engaging the work of our social workers, our school psychologists, our school counselors to really be actively involved in working with our families. And I think it's something to be proud of, because when you look at the state averages, they haven't dropped that dramatically, but ours have, because we've worked really hard at it. Martha.
2 questions. What are the dates we use for the pandemic era?
Good question. So if you go back one slide, the pandemic, March 2020 was the time when we closed schools. And so this first year, 21, 22, was when we were coming back. We were back in school for a year at that point. Remember, in that year that we returned gradually, that attendance recording was a little unique because of all the cohorting that we had going on and quarantining and all of that. So that year is a little bit of a tricky year to track. But from those years going forward after that, it's real hard, fast attendance.
My second question, what is the definition of chronic absentee?
Sure. Chronic absenteeism is a student that's considered absent for 8 to 10% of the year. So that number would be about 10%. So that's 18.2. This is just a regional comparison with chronic absences, and it's just something that we know because we collaborate and work with our surrounding communities. It's a concentrated effort that we've all committed to make sure that our children are in school. And next,
I'm so sorry.
Go ahead.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
I know Kate and Becky, you've talked before about some of the work that you've done to address this. It's amazing, super impressive. Is that, have you seen an improvement in I know it was kindergarten and preschool. Have you seen an improvement in those attendance rates?
We have, and so we still have that, basically what we call is an attendance campaign. So we inform parents early and often. We had our first attendance meeting of the year already, and we're seeing improvements just from where we were. It was also independently phone calls with everybody who engaged in our pre-K program. So because we made the changes, I did call every family and explain this is a full-time program, attendance is required. That was often what was hurting us at the elementary school, is pre-K seen as a childcare function and not a necessity. So that was part of enrolling in our pre-K program.
No, that's okay. It's important work. Next, what I'd like to do is another element of knowing our students and our families is seeking their feedback and knowing and understanding their perceptions and their experiences in school each day. And so I'd like to turn this over to Larry and Kate, who are going to talk about student and family climate survey data.
Yep, for MMS, our climate data, a glow would be that students continue to feel that they have at least one friend. So that's something that we wanted to positively highlight. After a strong year in the 2023-2024 school year, which was the highest since before COVID, we did see some dips this past year. So that drew some action on my part and Danielle's part. So this past Friday, during our PD day, all MMS staff, teachers and paras included, reviewed the survey data through a process that we initiated. And one of our outcomes was to develop independent goals from the student data in the use of I statements. And then staff also brainstorm potential building goals that the PBIS committee from our building will review next week and begin to take action upon and build some building level goals around our student climate survey data. Our PBIS team will also drill down and look at cohort data in order to take additional actions and steps. And some actions could be student focus groups. That seems like a logical next step on how we get additional specific student feedback. Lastly, we also made changes to the schedule this school year that reduced the number of transitions in a day, which had students moving out around a lot. And the pace of the day felt pretty frenetic. So we've moved, not including homeroom, we moved from 9 blocks a day. So think of if you have 9 blocks plus a homeroom, that's quite a significant number of transitions. We moved that down to 7. So you have 7 blocks a time. So effectively our blocks, instead of being 40 minutes and they're go, 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 we have 55-minute blocks and we moved to a 6-day schedule, which is aligned with MES. So we think we're already on the right pathway. Our behaviors are early. I don't want to say too much, but our student disciplinary data is shining already for this school year as compared to last year. So that's often an indicator of how students feel. And our work around intentionally building teaching into the habits of character at the classroom level this school year has also yielded positive results. So I hope next year at this time, I guarantee we'll be sharing a more positive set of growth from the MMS.
Edith, you have a question?
Taking some great steps to
Edith.
address some, sorry. I like all the steps I'm seeing that you're taking to address this, but I'm wondering if you have any thoughts about what the cause of the dip is.
Yeah, I think, we often have different groups of students, cohorts that come through, and maybe as we dig into our cohort data, that might tell a story. I do think the pace of the last year, that was a change last year. So we moved to 40-minute classes in order to build a win block in. I do think the pace of the day was pretty tough for our kids. It's go, go, go. Staff are trying to fill that time and accomplish the same that they had in a longer period of time for their classes. And I think the students felt that. So our shift this year, moving to 55-minute classes, is welcome. You can feel the pace is calmed down. Students feel better. There's fewer hall transitions, so fewer negative times for students to interact negatively. I think between those two things, those are some big factors. Yeah, you're welcome.
I have a question about 2 areas, which I think Edith was actually talking about as well. But the connections that kids see between school and life beyond, and then talking about respect for differences, it seems that those 2 are actually related.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering what specific ideas your team has to address that.
Yeah, so you've pinpointed one of those, the connection between school and the work that I do. Many of our staff wrote I statements around that, and they pinpointed that as well. What we need to do is really be intentional about what we're teaching. I think as adults, when we teach, we see the connections to the real world and life beyond school. But it's our job to help and ensure that students see that connection every day, not just at the beginning of a unit. Do we want to make those connections? We want to make that on a daily basis so that students see, oh yeah, the work that I'm doing in math here, it has this, when I'm rebuilding a room and I need to, cut some 2x4s to size and I need to make sure I go to Home Depot once, not 4 times, and I plan out a project. That's the connotation, that's the connection. So just being really intentional about our work that we're doing day to day with students. And I think that was an aha moment for much of our staff. It's like, we need to make that every day.
And do you think that, I spent most of my career with lovely adolescents.
Yeah.
Do you think that part of the issue for the second to the bottom has to do with that portion of life that the children find themselves in, where they're not sure of themselves, so maybe they're not sure of others as well?
Yeah.
And if so, how are you guys addressing that?
Yeah, and so I think with our push with PBS, we hope to see improvement there. We have to remind students that we have to work together. We are a school community. We're building in the school community together, and that we have to help resolve conflict with students through restorative approaches and practices. I think sometimes if a student has a negative experience and it doesn't get resolved, they're going to hold on to that. And then that's going to cloud their thoughts and their perspective about certain things. So, part of our work this year also is training staff around restorative circles and community circles so that when they implement those, we can help build a stronger community, work through problems together. And it's not all, it doesn't always have to be exclusively a disciplinarian approach. We have to work with students to actually get to the root of the problem, the why, and help them be part of the solution and not impose the solution. Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Martha?
Just a couple of questions. One is, there are figures at the top. It says MMS number 351. Does that mean 351 responses? Because at the bottom of the page, we have the total number of students. So I'm wondering, I just want to read the chart correctly.
Yes, to read the chart correctly, for MMS, we had 351 students complete the survey.
Okay, thank you. And sort of connecting with what Jeanette just said, I noticed the problems are in the middle school. What time of year is this done?
Yeah, that might have something to do with it. It's around SBAC time in our spring.
What?
It's around our spring assessment time. It's springtime. It's late spring. That could be something to consider and think about. But then that's when we've done it previously as well.
Yeah, no, I think Jeanette made some good points.
Yeah.
It's, I know, emotionally a tough time for kids.
That's that's true. That's our middle school world that we live in. Every day is a new day.
Yeah, but thank you for changing the blocks. I think that makes it easier. And I think that passing between classes, not having as much time to get kind of annoyed at somebody else, I think that helps.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you feel that walking through the building compared to April of 2025 to September of 2025. You feel that difference already.
May I ask, Larry, how did the staff feel about the different time blocks?
So far, the early reports are really positive. Staff report they don't feel as rushed trying to cram content in, right? They feel like they are able to go at a pace that best meets the needs of students. And for context, we're going to reconvene after Q1 a committee just to sharpen and make sure that the changes that we made are effective. But also if we have to make little tweaks to our schedule, we want to start that work in November, not in January, February, or March. We want to begin that right away. So I've already committed, and staff had heard me say, after Q1, we're going to committee together. We want representation from all our teams. And then we'll get some feedback from students as well as part of that process.
Excellent, thank you. Greg?
I was just curious about the blocks. Do we still do double blocks?
No, so Greg, when you were around, we probably, just thinking like the eighth grade, eighth grade used to have double blocks. So we had a modified block schedule. This must have been over 10, 12 years ago. And we don't have blocks now. Now we have every class meets for 55 minutes. So that's the function of how our schedule works. And we are able to fit all our classes in, but in a 6-day rotation. Yeah.
And so what they've done is looked at over the course of the year, what are the total instructional minutes that every core area should have, and how do we ensure that we have the right instructional minutes, but also the sweet spot of the right amount of time each day? Because when you remember it, you had 2 90s and a 45, and the 90s were really long, and the 45 wasn't quite enough. But what they really did with the team is to reimagine a schedule that allows for the right amount of instructional minutes that really all classes need to accomplish what they need to accomplish and to make progress, but also create a schedule where that there's a system to it and a sameness where it doesn't feel as rushed or it doesn't feel too long.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Catherine.
My favorite subject, PE.
Yeah.
Are
Yep.
kids getting the right amount of exercise and break during this 6-day week?
Yep, certainly. So the students in PE class and any what we call off the floor classes still have and meet 55-minute classes. For our PE students, that's 55 minutes times 3 over the course of the 6-day schedule. So it's actually a slight increase compared to last year that students have in their PE instructional time over a 5-day.
So they still get their 3 days per week. It's just fit into a 6-day schedule.
That's correct. 3
Thank you.
days over the 6 days. Yep.
Susanna?
I just wanted to say, I really appreciate you detailing all the action steps that you're taking to address the school climate data. That's really wonderful. And I also want to celebrate the MES climate data because it's awesome.
I'm happy
that's
to-
fantastic.
Thanks. If we're ready, I can share a little bit. So I think we were happy with where we were last year, but we knew the areas that were of concern were those areas about whether or not our students felt like they belonged and whether or not they knew adults enough to trust them. In large part, that was coming out of being in 3 small buildings and a community that wasn't necessarily sure that a student population of over 500 and as large as it was could do that. And we were conscious about that. PBIS and our restorative practices, as well as everything that we expect from our teachers and our teachers teaming, is this idea that relationships matter. And so what you see there is not only that students know one adult, they know several. So as we've explained in our instructional blocks, during our What I Need blocks, even in the elementary school, our teachers don't just own their classroom, they own their entire grade level. And so students will soon be exchanging from one classroom to another. If you've been to our building, you know that kindergarten calls their area the neighborhood. Our kindergarten teacher letters go out with all of the kindergarten teachers' faces on them. So even if you're in Miss Ramsdell's class or Miss Labella's class, you get a letter with everybody's picture because as kindergarten teachers, they own every kindergartner, and that's seen throughout the building. And that is where you start to see this change. I think it's also always one of those points of pride when you look at what it is about teachers supporting students or teachers being who students see as somebody they trust. We're receiving that feedback that that's how our students feel. I also think for us, you'll see one other really great glow is there was a lot of questions about moving to core resources and this idea that there might be a loss of autonomy or enrichment in our classrooms as we launched Benchmark and Bridges. If you look at the fact that students see the work they do in school as interesting, it increased during a time when we moved more core resources. But that's also because we were very intentional and the board supported us in saying core resources don't live in a vacuum. We added play-based learning institutes and we embraced it. And Becky and I will always say our priority is to see how you're going to create ingenuity within the confines of Benchmark or Bridges. And that is paying off. I think it's also interesting that you'll see two connections to what we've presented tonight. The school expectations are clear. That's the understanding that every student in our building knows what PAWs are. And we've shared this with you before. I've had parents tell me that they have heard students tell each other at playgrounds outside of school, that is not acting kind. That is not meeting PAWs. So not only do they know what our school expectations are within our four walls, they know what our school expectations are within their community. And so continuing to see that grow. And then you'll see the growth in what we'll continue to work on is the ability to reflect. That is the work of building portfolios. Even in kindergarten, through their portfolios, they're learning to reflect. And so last year, our fourth grade were the pilots, this year, third grade. And the work of Kim King, you have all been able to see. If you're in the lower level, she actually hung a TV where the students show the artwork, and her personal work is teaching students to reflect. So I expect we'll see 89 go to 99 as students begin to recognize that what they're doing is reflection.
Thank you. And part of that is just that really intentional work of how do we teach into the skills and how do we articulate that. I appreciate that Kate brought up reflection because that's something that Hope and I talk about a lot. How do we teach into high quality reflection where students are really thinking about acknowledging and recognizing their growth over time? And it's important whether it's academic or through the habits of character. So we really appreciate all of the work our teams put into this. Next, I'd like to allow Larry and Kate to talk about family climate survey data.
Yeah, a glow for our family climate data is that families continue to feel comfortable communicating with staff from our school, so that we saw a slight increase there. A grow is the effectiveness of some of our communications. So one change that we've already made this year is to have some important communications shared by themselves as opposed to in a group email where there's 10 items. If you receive our middle school communications, I already have 2 examples of that. So I did a save the date to families outside of our regular Thursday communication about Middle School Education Week. That's something that we really value. We want to highlight. We want to elevate these marquee events, and that's one. And then you might have seen this week a communication from me about Veterans Day, recruiting families to be a part of our Veterans Day celebration this November. And so another example of a marquee event where that might have normally been embedded in a Thursday communication along with 5 to 10 other items. So pulling out, extrapolating some of those marquee events is the move that we're doing this year to make sure that families are aware of MMS's marquee events. So just to increase that effective communication.
I think at MMS, we can say the same. We, as you know, we put together a focus group last year in order to start to target what are the ways we can improve communication. This is also the outgrowth of 3 small schools. And so we, more and more families are just our families and haven't been in other schools in which they're just adjusting to our communication form. So we continue to see that improve. We are doing now is we're not only sending home our take-home notices to families, but one of the takeaways we learned with our staff last week is that they don't always get that link. So we're including our staff so that if a family reached out to a teacher, they can redirect the family so that the family doesn't have to go find it on the website. We do have a system in the district of our communication timelines, and that is something that is still only a year old. We continue to make sure that we also provide our families notice of all of our forms of communication, and that is something we provided at meet and greet and at open house, basically a communication cheat sheet. The other thing we did differently this year in terms of, as Larry was saying, marquee events, we created a save the date, which basically has all of the things that will occur at MES from the beginning of the year until the end. And we provided that to families at the meet and greet and again at open house. And we continue to send that home regularly so that we're trying to provide as much information as we can, as far in advance as we can.
I think that's really important because our families are incredibly busy. And so trying to keep track of all of that, I think both buildings are looking at ways to build out the strategies to support strong communication. And lastly, in our climate survey, we're sharing our staff climate data. We notice there are some drops in this data feedback from last year. This is a survey that we typically give in April, and we also looked at and thought about what are the reasons that would contribute to some of that. We've had some pretty big changes across the district over the last few years where people at the middle school, we've implemented a win block that has been a lift. Thinking about and growing our skill set and our comfort level with it. We've embraced new core resources, which people have appreciated, but it also is a challenge in supporting that transition in time. And so what we know is we've done hard work last year and people were a little bit tired. But what we also see at the beginning of this year is that people are feeling empowered. And so they've done the hard work, and now we're seeing how they're leading professional learning, how they're embracing new core resources and taking that on, and not only blending an example in 7th grade, they're blending not only the core practices of a new core reading resource that they're using, but they're also blending it with the PBIS practices, norms, rituals, and routines. And so now from that hard work, they're building that new pathway. And so we continue to reach out and to seek their feedback and to collaborate and to work with them. And we believe that through that collaboration work, we'll see improved results in the year ahead. Next, we'd like to walk you through some of our, I'm sorry.
No, I wanted to ask if we could have an update on the staff climate. And, you know, I mean, it looks like a large percentage of the teachers didn't respond. And I always think that when teachers don't respond to a survey like this, it really hurts them because you're trying to form programs. And when they don't participate, how can they take it, you know, get their word? You know, I just don't think it's a good idea when they don't. It's hurtful to them is what I want to say.
Sure.
It's you're trying to go get a program across, and you don't know if 30% of this people who don't respond, if they're upset, if they're happy, or what's going on. And it doesn't help the school program when they don't respond.
Yes, so we'll certainly share an update with you as we have that. But I would also say that oftentimes people don't respond because they're feeling good about it. We would prefer that they respond, and we do work, and our admin team works at encouraging everybody to respond because the feedback and input does matter. Just as we survey and when we work with our paraeducator team, we take that feedback and we use that to plan for supports and professional learning. So I appreciate your comments, Martha. Yep.
When they took the surveys, was this something people just did on their own time? Or were they at a faculty meeting or something like that?
No, great question. We typically provide time for them to complete these surveys because it's important that we want the information. We want to know and understand. And if there's feedback that we need to know, often we want to hear it so that we can begin to set actions and plans in place. But to do that, we know people are busy and we know well-intentioned beyond the school day, but it's sometimes hard to come back to that. So we build in time to make sure that they have opportunity
So
to
there's a
clean up.
time within the day where, I don't know, you're finishing some orientation meeting or something and.
Yes.
And still that was the percentage completed.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we'd like to just take some time to share with you performance data for the district. We know that when we share student data, it's a triangulation. It's not just about an assessment score. It's about our children's experiences, perceptions, and also the artifacts that they create and we curate to know and understand our students' lived experiences each and every day. And we want to remember that it is, yes, academic, but it's also social, emotional. It's also important that we're tending to the whole child. And I think you all have something to be quite proud of as part of Mansfield Public Schools, that we not only lean into rigorous core academic programming for all learners, but we also have a breadth of programming that ensures that we're meeting the unique needs of each and every one of our children. And so what we'll do tonight is just walk through some of our Smarter Balanced assessment assessment scores to share with you. As a reminder, SBAC is a requirement by federal and state law. It's administered in the spring in grades 3 through 8. Additionally, students in grades 5 and 8 will participate and complete the Next Generation Science Standards Assessment, NGSS. Students are measured, student progress in attainment of skills. These assessments measure student progress and attainment of skills needed to be college and career ready. And these assessments help to evaluate school and district programs. And they also provide a snapshot of performance that, combined with other assessments and artifacts of student work, help to give us a whole picture of our learners. We talked a little bit about this last year. We not only look at the end score of what their final performance score is, but we also spend quite a bit of time ensuring that our students are making growth. And so understanding Smarter Balanced Assessment, it's not just about the final assessment score, it's about students' growth over time. And so achievement is one element of Smarter Balanced Assessment, but growth, showing how much a student has improved or compared to their performance of the previous year, is something that we look closely at, because growth highlights learning over time. And even if a student isn't at grade level yet, strong growth shows progress in that direction. And so it's something that's important to us. And right here, what you have is an SBAC in math growth performance of comparison from 2023, 24 to 2024, 2025. And these dots represent different schools across the state in their performance. Lower left corner is low performance, low growth. Upper right corner is high performance, high growth. And obviously, we all want to be working up to that upper right quadrant. We've had a little bit of movement, not in the direction we'd like for math, but what's encouraging to me when I look at this across the state of Connecticut is how much more those dots are becoming regionalized and aligned and beginning to move in the right direction. This is good for us. It's good for all students across the state. When we look at the ELA performance, again, the goal is that upper right quadrant, and you notice that there is some nice growth for both the middle school and the elementary school in their growth performance in the current year. I think we really can attribute that to, we've really made some strong concentrated effort over the last few years of our core foundational reading resources with not only our core program, but also our attention to foundations and our attention to core reading resources in the middle school as well. And that we're beginning to regionalize our efforts. And similarly, across the state, you're seeing that there's stronger and tighter alignment. When we compare our performance in ELA with the state and the region, you'll find that overall we perform quite strong. We tilt this, not only are we ahead of the state average in performance, but we tend to be ahead of other schools in our region. Similarly for math, we perform quite strong, and we tend to still be leading in performance in this area. We know we still have room for growth. And we know that progress is a little bit slower. It appears to be than we'd like to be, but we also see, and what we'll share in subsequent slides, is we're making progress and that our trends are improving. Here you see our English language arts performance on the Smarter Balanced Assessment for last year. Our students' performance is in blue, performance of students across the state in green. Again, feeling positive that we continue to make progress. And what you'll notice on this slide is we're looking at the 3-year trends over time, particularly as you start to look at the middle school, our trend lines are starting to go in the right direction. We're starting to notice incremental growth. And based on what we're also seeing from other elementary assessments that are pre-Smarter Balanced Assessment, we're starting to see nice growth in performance from our students. Similarly in math, we have a comparison of our performance on Smarter Balanced as compared with the state. Something to also be aware of when we're looking at this data, that is that when you reach 6th grade, there's a bump in that assessment. It becomes a little bit more rigorous. And what we're starting to see here is we've paid close attention, particularly in mathematics, to grade 6. And we're starting, we've made a shift in a core resource that we've been using, and we're starting to see some nice growth and transition in that particular grade. And then as if we're looking at performance of a cohort, we're seeing growth over time as well. And so what this is that while it's incremental growth, students are making progress. Similarly, we have our Smarter Balanced Assessment, or excuse me, our NGSS assessment in science. Again, that's administered in grades 5 and 8. Our students perform, they're quite strong in this particular assessment as compared to the state. And we know that our teachers not only appreciate the NGSS assessment, but they also appreciate that assessment and those question types have really informed them and how, when they set up their units of instruction, they're really empowering their students to think like scientists and to analyze like scientists. And I know that when we disaggregate this data, our students tend to be strongest in analyzing data and making meaning of the data. And that points to critical thinking skills. How you're able to take multiple sets of data and make meaning of it and make informed decisions from it. And that is a life skill. Also have a high needs comparison for subgroups. Those students that are in ELA and math, that are percentage of students meeting or exceeding the achievement level. Again, when we compare our performance with the state, we tend to be above the state trends. And additionally, we look at this information because we're wanting to make sure that our students are continuing to make growth. This is data that we pay attention to, and we also provide this looking at not only our non-high need students, but also looking at the performance of our high need students within our own community. And lastly, DIBELS. The DIBELS reading assessment is a required assessment that comes along with the science of reading legislation from the state. We use this assessment to assess and measure student performance in 4 of the 5 critical skills for beginning reading: phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, and comprehension. This really does align with the implementation of the Foundation's reading programs and grades now PK through 3. And the data that we're seeing here indicates that a strong core program supports student acquisition of essential foundational skills. And so we've not only got foundations working for us, but we've got benchmark reading program working for us. And what you see here is last year's data, the fall assessment for K, and then the spring assessment for K. And blue and green are where you want your learners to be. And you see that pretty significant jump for our students, not only in K, but when you look at grade 1 and grade 2. There's some nice progress and growth that we're seeing from beginning of the year to the end of the year. But even more so, when we look at students who completed this assessment in the fall in kindergarten and then the fall in 1st grade. Pretty impressive growth. And we will have, the next time that you see this chart will be completed. This assessment is still in progress, so we don't have all of the final data. But what we see when we're looking at these cohorts from year to year, and even the preliminary data in grades 2 and 3, kids are making gains. And I think that's a tremendous credit to our teams of educators in those buildings that have really worked hard to not only understand and utilize the core resource, but then to also ensure through small group instruction, through win blocks, that every child gets what they need to make growth. iReady is our benchmark assessment that we use and administer 3 times a year. This assessment helps us to monitor student progress over the course of the year. And so something that we look at closely is not only their performance fall to spring, but even within each assessment window. How are our students doing? Not only are they at the benchmark goal line, but what type of growth are they making, whether they're below benchmark or above benchmark? And so we use this data to help inform our instruction and to help inform and plan for small group instruction, but it is a tool that we use to help plan for that. What we see from in this past year, we've had nice growth in all grade levels from fall to spring. Another tool, way that we use our iReady data is to compare it to what we want to project for smarter balanced performance in the spring. And so something that we've worked on pretty closely, Hope Mulholland has had her hand in, is how do we utilize these data sets to know and inform our instruction and our actions in the classroom in the day-to-day to ensure that all students are making progress? And how do we empower teachers to know and understand this data through professional learning that helps them to plan for small group instruction that meets the individual needs of our learners? And so we also spent a bit of time building that out and growing our data literacy practices. And I also know that our leaders within each building have been utilizing professional learning time, empowering teachers to know and understand the information that they have about each learner, and then to plan for instruction that meets those needs. And where this is really impressive is that when you look at this data from our data dashboard, what we're comparing here is spring smarter balanced assessment performance to iReady spring performance. What this helps us to realize is iReady is a very strong indicator of performance on the smarter balanced assessment. And why does that matter? It matters because now that we know that iReady and smarter balanced are really aligned, we also know that as we look at that information before spring, in the fall, we're looking at students' progress that they're making in their personalized learning pathway. We're able to disaggregate and look at that data and look at what are the areas of strength, where are they making growth, as well as within these reading and math assessments, what are their areas within strands that we need to teach into more intentionally. And so this really is just a snapshot to say the alignment helps to inform adult action that helps to support all learners. And so the slides that I have included here, I'm not going to go through all of them. They really just represent how we look at this data across math and ELA.
Just looking at the ELA performance data, what is, say, on the second page where you have grade 5 and grade 4, what is reading at grade level? How do I know when I look at, say, the grade 4, is if someone is in the yellow?
Good question. I'm glad you said. So the blue band and the green band are meeting the benchmark.
Benchmark is at grade level.
Yes.
That you're reading at grade level.
Yep. And the yellow and the red would be below benchmark. And so they'd be working towards grade level.
Okay, because that's concerning to me. When a fourth grader, when we have, it looks like almost 40% of the fourth graders are not reading at grade level, if I'm reading that correctly.
No, that would be the smarter balanced assessment.
Yes, smarter balanced.
Okay,
yes.
so 40, there are students that did not meet you want to speak to that?
So when we're looking at something like a smarter balance in fourth grade, in that yellow is they're accessing the grade level, but not in all the areas. So remember, they're testing in several different areas, and I think it's even easier for me to explain that in iReady. If we look at that percentage of students in grade 4 in iReady, if we were to identify a student who has yellow, it may mean that they are reading fictional text at grade level, but not informational text. That they are able to answer questions regarding a narrative, but not at the same level of information, or vice versa. When we're looking at the students of concern, those that for whom we're considering a reading intervention outside of the classroom, it would be the students in red. Students in the yellow are in small group instruction with a teacher with limited support 2 to 3 times a week. When you're looking at students in red, those are the students in more intensive, or they're potentially a student with an IEP who has a goal for reading. So the yellow is an area in which we're instructing. Green and blue are at grade level and typically working in whole group or larger groups.
And Martha, it might be helpful in the future to talk about a little bit more in depth about the different category strands that the Smarter Balanced Assessment measures, because this isn't just about on grade level reading. They're assessing them in speaking and listening, their ability to read and respond to informational text, to fiction text, to their ability with grammar and written responses. So it actually measures a number of categories, but we might, at the next time we present on this, talk a little bit more about those subcategories.
And iReady, the big difference between the two?
iReady is, you can speak that if you want, Kate, but iReady doesn't, it speaks to the informational, in the reading components and bands. It probably does not focus as heavily on speaking and listening.
And I think what we've talked about in both our 3rd and 4th grade in terms of where we're seeing the discrepancies between the iReady data and the SBAC data, because this was an area that 3rd grade dug deep into, is the written response. So while we're seeing written responses in the classroom that would exceed the expectations for an SBAC, there's a component that they're typing. And so one of the focus groups this time for 3rd grade is the opportunity to type a response and begin that practice so that by 4th grade, they're feeling comfortable thinking about a written response through typing. We are still, for us, handwriting responses in the other areas, and we don't have to do that as much in iReady. And so for us to get a direct correlation between our SBAC and our iReady, we're focusing on those written responses in 3rd and 4th grade.
Which test is the best test to decide? And maybe we can talk about this at some other time, whether a 3rd grader or a 4th grader is reading at grade level and how many aren't. I mean, we have all these different
I think
models
it would be
here.
a great topic for a lunch and learn where we can talk to you about the different data points and how we use them and how we look at an individual, because each one of these, there's a complexity to even what's in the yellow. And a lot of the work we've done at MES is how we set goals within those bands. So I would love to have that as a future opportunity.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, Kate. And it's also the reminder that it's not just one test that tells us that. It's really looking at a variety of pieces of information in the data that, iReady and SBAC tell us a piece of the puzzle, but it's also looking at those opportunities within classroom performance in the day-to-day.
Because it seems as you go up 6, 7, 8, it still doesn't really make a huge difference. We're not really chopping away at that. That doesn't look like it from these numbers.
Yeah, and remember, it's going to take progress over time. If you recall, just 2 years ago, we began to look at, we committed to putting all of our focus, not all of it, but a significant focus and attention on building those foundational reading skills, those core practices, because we know those are important. And those students are developing those skills and they're moving through. It doesn't mean that we forget our students that have reading needs in the middle school, but it's also thinking about how are we intentional about our programming and building those foundational skills for our students as they're moving up. And at the same time, what are we doing intentionally to build skills for those students that need that area of boost or growth over time in the upper grade levels as well.
I'm sure I look at it too simplistically, but I am really committed.
No, I appreciate that.
Students leave 3rd grade, a huge percentage of them should be reading at 3rd grade level.
Yep.
They'll do better in math and life.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, we agree and we appreciate that. But I do think a lunch and learn on this topic would be helpful because it is complex.
Candace?
Yes.
I'd like to hear, maybe not tonight, but at another point, a little bit more about the comment made about that they're getting instruction out of the classroom. Because, I worry about kids being kind of singled out. So maybe not tonight, but another night, I'd like to know more about how that's done.
Sure. Catherine, we're happy to share with you. It's actually, it's really about our small group instruction. And so we can talk about that model. It's not necessarily out of the classroom. Both the middle school and the elementary school have really reimagined how we give kids what they need through small group flexible instruction. But we should definitely put that on a topic to talk about what WinBlock looks like and feels like and how it meets the individual needs of kids. So we'll make sure to make note of that. Thank you.
This is part of WinBlock when you do the small pull-out readings?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I got it. No problem.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Great.
Lunch and learn.
We'll put that into a lunch and learn topic. That's fair. And it can be complex.
That's where I heard about it.
Yeah. So, all right, wonderful. Any other questions before we move on? Okay, so at this point, this concludes our September report of progress. Thank you so much for giving us the time tonight to talk about the work that we do. Our next report of progress will be to support the whole child in January and then ensure deep learning in June. Before we end tonight, as I said, I just want to encourage you and remind you if you're able to participate and join us on November 12th. I think this would be a really powerful viewing and to be a part of, and will foster really good discussion on how we support our students in this day and age. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you so much for your work. Really appreciate it. So if there's nothing else, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Greg. Do we have a second? Thank you, Susanna. All in favor? Great, thank you very much. Catherine?
Yep.
Okey dokey.
Have a good evening.
Thank you, Jill.